Hi, welcome to the channel. I'm Dean Vera, and today we'll talk about how VP Sara Duterte is fighting back. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Again, we'll talk about how Sara Duterte, the Vice President of the Philippines, is fighting back. As you well know, in my past videos, the House of Representatives has filed a impeachment complaint, and it's now with the Senate, pending the institution of the senators as an impeachment court. Before anything could happen, the Senate took a recess, and they're not going to meet supposedly until June 2, 2025. In the meantime, on February 19, VP Sara Duterte, Vice President Sara Duterte, filed a case in the Supreme Court, and this is what she filed. Here's the picture. And she filed a petition for certiorari and prohibition with temporary restraining order or writ of preliminary injunction. She filed the case against the Speaker of the House, Martin Romualdez, the Secretary General of the House of Representatives, a Reginald Velasco, and of course also against the Senate President Francis Cheese Escudero. Now, in this video, I'll explain to you what exactly did she file. What is she asking the Supreme Court? All right, but I have to lay down the law first, lay down the rules of what the Constitution says, what the Supreme Court can do. Under the 1987 Constitution, Article 8, the Supreme Court has the judicial power, or the judicial power is vested solely on the Supreme Court of the Philippines. This is according to Article 8, Section 1. And judicial power is defined as including the duty of the courts of justice to settle actual controversies involving rights which are legally demandable and enforceable. And here is what she filed. And to determine whether or not there has been a grave abuse of discretion amounting to lack or excess of jurisdiction on the part of any branch of the government. So she filed a certiorari, which is asking or telling the court that there is a grave abuse of discretion that was done by the branch of the government, this time the House of Representatives. That's called a certiorari. Now, a certiorari is defined more explicitly under Rule 65 of the Rules of Court. It states that a petition for certiorari is when any tribunal, board, or officer exercising quasi or judicial functions has acted with or in excess of its jurisdiction, or with grave abuse of discretion amounting to lack or excess of jurisdiction, and there is no speedy, plain, adequate remedy or appeal in the ordinary course of law. So Sara Duterte is asking the government, is asking the Supreme Court that the acts of the House of Representatives amounted to a grave abuse of discretion, meaning they abused the power that they had, the choice that they could make in filing the impeachment complaint. Of course, there's many rumors on what was the flawed or what was wrong with the impeachment complaint, but she's probably stating that how the House of Representatives acted in instituting and filing the articles of impeachment. She's questioning that what the House of Representatives did was without jurisdiction, was without power, or if there was any, they abused it. So the ultimate result of a certiorari is that you're going to nullify, or the Supreme Court probably nullify the impeachment complaints because it was done or acted with grave abuse of discretion. Another action that she filed is called prohibition. What is prohibition? Again, let's look at the rules of court. According to Section 2 of Rule 65, prohibition is when the proceedings of any tribunal, corporation, officer, board, whether exercising judicial or quasi-judicial or ministerial functions, are without or excess of jurisdiction or with grave abuse of discretion amounting to lack or excess of jurisdiction, and there is no appeal or plain, speedy, adequate remedy in the ordinary course of law, a person with a petition to the court may allege the facts and that the body that she's filing against will desist from further proceedings. So in a sense, the prohibition here is against the Senate of the Philippines. That's why she put Senate President Chis Escudero as the party, because she's asking the Senate to desist from continuing with the impeachment trial because she's alleging that the House, through the certiorari petition, is or has acted with grave abuse of discretion. So again, it's like a domino effect. The first thing you do is, the first thing VP Sara did was certiorari, meaning that the House acted with grave abuse of discretion. At the same time, she's filing against the Senate President or the Senate of the Philippines through Chis Escudero, the Senate President, a prohibition, meaning please desist from continuing with the impeachment trial because I'm questioning the impeachment complaint filed by the House of Representatives. So that is prohibition. But prohibition will only last or be given technically at the end of the case, at the end of the trial, or the end of the deliberations in the Supreme Court. So meaning that's going to take a lot of time. And as you know, if the Senate does resume its session on June 2 or even after the elections on July 1, there could be a possibility, and according to Chis Escudero, that an impeachment trial may ensue or may be started. So in a sense, she's asking already as early as February 19 to the Senate through the Supreme Court saying, hey, Senate, please stop first. Let my case of certiorari against the House proceed in the Supreme Court, or let the Supreme Court decide whether there was grave abuse of discretion. But a party may, in the meantime, in the interim, while the trial is ongoing or the case is pending in the Supreme Court, she prayed for, or she asked, it's called a prayer, a temporary restraining order or a writ of preliminary injunction. Now, these are basically two acts, but they're in the same species or the same vein of the action that she's asking or she's petitioning the Supreme Court. What are those? First, let's go to writ of preliminary injunction. A writ of preliminary injunction, it's found under Rule 58 of the Rules of Court, and it states, let me read, that it is an order granted at any stage of an action. He or she filed it in the beginning or proceeding or prior to the judgment, meaning she filed for a writ of preliminary injunction. That's why it's called preliminary, before the case ends, and she's asking an injunction to stop the proceedings, requiring a party or the court to refrain from going through the act. So that is a writ of preliminary injunction. So the Supreme Court, or any court for that matter, has the power to issue an order or writ of preliminary injunction stopping the parties from doing what it is the one who filed the petitioner saying, if you do this, the case is that there is going to be irreparable damage to Sara Duterte. Of course, that's a common prayer of any act with regards to prohibition, because prohibition is the ultimate end result. So in prohibition, the court then says, stop permanently. But since the case is pending or ongoing, the party or the petitioner may ask for a writ of preliminary injunction, meaning stop first while the case is ongoing or pending. Now, in the extreme, she also asked for a TRO, or a temporary restraining order. Now, a temporary restraining order is something filed when there is going to be unrepairable damage or irreparable consequence to this case, Sara Duterte. So she's asking that the Supreme Court issue a temporary restraining order. Now, there is a hierarchy as to the duration. So the writ of preliminary injunction is only issued after a hearing, meaning before a writ of preliminary injunction is going to be issued by the court, the parties must be heard, or there must be due process. But a temporary restraining order may be filed immediately. It can be issued immediately if there's going to be irreparable damage, or the act that is being sought to be stopped or to be desist is giving grave, or it will do so much damage to the petitioner. So a temporary restraining may be issued. Now, if the regional trial court issues a temporary restraining order, or a TRO, it's only good for 20 days. If it's issued by the Court of Appeals, because you filed in the Court of Appeals, it can be good for 60 days. Now, if it's filed with the Supreme Court, it's actually technically also a writ of preliminary injunction, because when the Supreme Court issues a TRO, it's good until it's revoked. So in a sense, when the Supreme Court issues a TRO, it's technically a writ of preliminary injunction. And according to the rules of court and in the Constitution, when the justice issues, it doesn't have to be the whole court, it doesn't have to be the whole 15 justices. It can be the one justice who is in charge of the division who the case is raffled to. If he issues the TRO, it's immediate, and it is as long as the case is pending, or at least when it is revoked. So, was there a TRO? Well, the TRO is only issued after the Supreme Court accepts the petition and issues it. But here's the timeline. Sara Duterte filed her case on February 19, and usually a TRO may be issued within a week when the case is filed or received. But the Supreme Court, in an order dated February 25, it's supposed to be a working holiday, the Senate and the House of Representatives were ordered to comment within 10 days of receipt their answer or their reply or their feelings or their comment on the petition of Vice President Sara Duterte. So, in effect, at least until the parties, the House and the Senate, filed their comment, there is no TRO, meaning there's no immediate restraining order. If there's going to be a hearing based on the filings of the petition and the comments by the House and the Senate, the Supreme Court may issue the writ of preliminary injunction. So it's a bit of a timing issue. Since it wasn't issued right away, an order to file comment was given to the whole House and the Senate, there is no TRO. Now, what's going to happen? Who's going to win? Is Sara going to win? Well, my opinion is... Hi, please do me a favor and smash that like button. It'll help me a lot, and it will trigger the YouTube algorithm. Now, if you have not yet, please subscribe to my channel. If you don't, my dog will eat this exam booklet, and that student has to repeat his final exam again.